I will show how to do the API automation using the Playwright tool. This is the repository I've created for Playwright API. You can download the clone from here. Once you import that into Eclipse, you can see it here. So let me walk through the code what I have done. For Playwright automation using for API, so get and post call is important. Let me see about how the get API works and the post API works, and what are the ways we can pass the request body in a post call, and how to do the chaining of APIs, how to validate the headers and all. We can see this. First of all, get API call. Let's see the basics, how to use this one. So first thing I need to do is I need to use the Playwright code that I have created this variable Playwright and I have called the Playwright. The next one is the request. I'm going to use from the Playwright. So request equal to playwright.request, this we need to use. And the third one is the request context. The request context refers the request as a new context. So these three syntax are very important. So the declaration we can do it in the class. After that we can do that in a before test annotation inside a separate method. Okay, so this can be used across many functions, many test scenarios we can use this. Okay, let's see about how to get users API. The first one is the API response. So here I'm using the request contents what we previously created, and I'm calling the API here. And here there is a status. So what is the response we are getting from this particular URL? From there I'm getting the status. So inside the integer variable, and so the assert that can be used to check the status code. So the expected status code is 200 when we pass this request. So this is how we should use the syntax and how to get the response and how to validate that one in very short. Okay. So next thing is like API response, we can get the status set text and we can print the status text also. From the API response, we can get the all the API response we can get as a text. So all the response that is coming in the hitting the postman, that will be converted to a text format and we can print that one. Suppose we need to only the body, so that also we can get from the API response dot body. Suppose you don't want it as a text, you want the response as a JSON body, just like a JSON file, you want to see that one. Here we are using the functionality of object mapper. Object mapper we are calling, and here the JSON response. I am fetching using the object mapper. I am using this API response body. So this API response body is mapped with object mapper, and that is assigned to a variable JSON response. So this JSON response I am converting into a string. So that will be stored in the string variable JSON petty response. So if I print this, so that will be in a JSON format. So this is how we need to change an API response to a viewable JSON format. We can use this object mapper. Okay. So this is like in the response, in the API response, if there is any headers, we can print that one. So we are mapping as a, we are using Java map. All the API response headers we are taking in the header map, and we are printing all the headers. Inside the particular header, we want to verify a particular value. We are taking this content type that has to be equal to this one. We are using the assert functionality here. So in this get API, we have seen how to pass a request, how to take the response, from the response how to take the status code, response as a text, and response as a body. So if you want to take the same value as a JSON format, then you can go for an object mapper and you can take the response. Similarly, you can validate the headers also using this. The next one we can see this the same get API, but we are passing the parameters inside. Suppose you want a specific parameter to be viewed from the response, so we can use this one. So here the response is, the request is this URL, and also you are passing the parameter. So I'm putting a comma here and I'm setting the parameters as create. Query param is ID, I'm passing as this, and status is active. So the response that is matching this particular ID, if that is active, that particular response will be displayed. So this is the get API to get a specific user. Okay, so once we got that one, similarly we are going to check the status code from the API response asset functionality. We are going to validate that one, and From the API response, you are getting the status as a text and you are validating that one. And this particular API response, you are printing as text. So this one you can do. For a specific user, if you want to get the response, we can do the same thing here. So this is all about the get API. Now I will go to the post API where I can elaborate, and other post calls will be similar to the, just only we are changing the request body. So let me show a post call. Okay, what the difference is, you are going to pass the request body in the request. So this is how you should pass. The other things are the same. You are setting or initially you are declaring the variables. So that is going to be the same. Okay, the same, the response, the request you are passing, and you are here, you are passing the content type as a header, application JSON header, and you are passing authorization token, and also your set data, you are passing the data. So the data is this one. So this one you are passing along with the request like a request body. So this is a post call, and here the response will be like the status code will be 201. So you are going to get the status and we are going to assert that and we are checking that one. Okay, similarly like object mapper you can use and you can get the response in a JSON format to a string, and we can check what is the user ID is being printed. Suppose from this JSON response we want to get the particular ID, so we can put this response and particular get from that ID tag. From the response there will be ID, so that will be that we can gather through this way, and we're converting this as text and we are storing it in a string variable so that we can print a user ID. So with this created user ID, we need to check whether user ID has been created. That we can check using a get API. So again we are going to, this is chaining of APIs. So we are going to use this get call and check whether the particular user ID is been created. So again the request will be the same. One thing is what the user ID what you have taken here, that same user ID you are passing here, so that from the response we can check like this particular user ID is been created. Again we are passing the header, the bearer token we are passing. So now the get API call, the status code will be 200, so that we can assert and check. And finally you are printing the text, and here you are validating the assert functionality that contains this particular user ID. This API get response.text should contain this particular user ID. You are validating that one, and also you are validating the email ID. Okay, so what the email ID is, so we don't want to create the email ID all the time. So I created a function that will append the time with the Gmail ID, so that will be randomly created and that will also validate it. Okay, similarly other post calls are there, so it is going to be the same thing. So you cannot pass the value all the time from here. So that can be from a file or from a JSON format or from a class, like that you can pass. So that'll be easy to maintain your request payload. So these four things are here. Suppose you need to pass as a JSON string, you can use this. So this is the JSON string. So this request body you are passing as a value when you're triggering the request. So this is a JSON string. If you want to pass a file, that also you can do. So here the Java code file bytes, that is null, that is declared. Then again I'm declaring the file that is placed in this specific path. src test user Java. So okay, so here I have pasted this JSON. So from here I am referring. So this particular value will be passed here. Let me open that one. So this is the request. So this one I have saved as a JSON format and I have stored in the Eclipse. Okay, so different point, this is direct post call, and this is using a JSON string in the request. This is passing a JSON file in the request. If you want to pass from a separate class, then you can use this POJO, plain object Java, plain old Java object. You can use this one. So what this is going to do is the request, we are going to call a new class here. So this user refers to this particular user of Java. So what the request payload you have in this particular Java file, so that will be taken and that will be sent as a request. You can send in this particular way also. So these are getters and setters that is converted into a payload and that is returned to this particular user class, and we are using that one. So these are the four methods how we can use the post call to get the desired data. Apart from it, we can check the API headers also. So what this is doing is through the get call, there will be many headers. So we are going to collect that headers in a map functionality Java map, and we are going to assert that and check print out all the headers. So here the thing is we are using in Java map functionality. So header map API response dot headers. This API response dot headers will return all the headers in the response. So here I am putting a for loop for each object on the headers map. I'm going to print all the values, that is header and the value. So here I'm printing the header size, and here I'm asserting the functionality. So what the header of server should be, that's with Cloudflare, and the header content type should be application.json. I'm just asserting it here. Suppose you want to print all the API response, you can use this for loop. Here I'm creating a list. In the list I'm storing API response header arrays. So all the headers that will be converted into array, that will be stored in the header list. So I'm putting a for loop for all the values in the header list. I'm printing the name and value. So this will be printing all the header and its value. Yeah, this is about using a Playwright for doing API automation. Thank you.